For dream recall, one of the first things is that if you have to have an interest in wanting to remember your dreams. So part of it is just intention setting.
Mhm.
So as you're falling asleep at night, and then repeat to yourself at night as you're falling asleep, I will remember my dreams. I will remember my dreams.
Okay.
That's like step 101.
Hello, my fellow Igniters, and welcome to the podcast that you didn't even know you wanted or needed. So, my name's Kyle Goodknight. I'll be your host as I gather my guests, and they come on and they talk about their superpowers in the entrepreneurial world. And today, I've got Bambi with me, who I met on a podcast connection site on Facebook, and we had a conversation the first night that we met on the Facebook page, and we got on a Zoom, and we had a wonderful call. And she's the topic of her business is something so intriguing because almost everybody out there wants to know what their dreams mean. And Bambi is a dream tracking specialist. Bambi, go ahead and tell us what you do. Introduce yourself and welcome to the Ignition Path podcast.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kyle. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, so my superpower is dream work, and I call it dream tracking. But what I do is I work with people with their nighttime dreams to understand what their dreams mean, what they're informing people about. And I have a whole process that I take them through, but I've been doing it for about 40 years now. So I'm
Oh,
really
wow.
well versed in dream work and have studied all kinds of different types of dream work. And I love it so much because it's something that we don't always recognize, that we have this ability to tap into something that informs us every single day. So I get really
Right.
excited talking about dreams.
Oh, I bet. Like, it's almost like I get excited about podcast growth. I get excited about it because it's so easy now, right? It's really is. I mean, if anybody's listened to this and they're like, "No, podcasting is hard," I've shown Bambi the gateway to podcasting, and she's excited about it later on. But I digress. When it comes to dreams, does it? Dreams can be good or bad.
Mhm.
They could be damaging or they can be helpful. So, my background. We spoke on our introductory call. And I'm a paramedic and a respiratory therapist, and I come from the hospital world and the EMS 911 system, and there's PTSI involved, right? Post traumatic stress incidences. So when it comes to that, talked a little bit about the negative side of the dreams, if that's the people you serve in your business, if or how often. I guess give me a ratio between the people that come to you out nightmares, because that's what we're going to call them. They're not negative dreams, they're nightmares. And then or unless you have a different term for them. So talk a little bit about the PTSD stuff about it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I don't generally work with people that are going through something that extreme. Mine's a little bit
Okay.
more of your daily dreams. But that being said, there is a processing that we're constantly trying to understand and integrate and find a well-being, like a homeostasis. And so when those kind of dreams do come up for people, there is always something trying to help them to balance out, I believe. But sometimes it needs a little bit more professional help, most likely,
Of
um,
course.
because it's trauma. But when it comes to regular nightmares, one of the things that I always tell people is, by the time something gets to a nightmare, if you have been tracking your dreams, which means logging them, journaling them over any amount of time, you're going to see that if you were to go back through the previous dreams, you would probably find little things pulling on your sleeve in previous dreams leading up to something. Because by the time, Kyle, it gets to be a nightmare, it's dreams have this, or nightmares have this ability to just completely over exaggerate. And so, but they do that on purpose to get our attention. And most people that I talk to about dreams, the only dreams they remember are their nightmares. They don't even realize that that there's other dreams that they have. So because those are the
Yeah,
ones that stick,
makes sense.
and they're very
Yeah,
deeply emotionally connected to.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
that makes a lot of sense because I've done a lot of trauma work when it comes to mental health traumas in the first responder world, and that's actually how I got to do podcasting. I run another podcast, shameless plug. The Elevate podcast is a mental health podcast that I also run for the first responders of our world. So go ahead and tune into that too, anybody listening. So, like I said, shameless plug. But I've found through my process of learning about that one of the most profound things that I learned during learning about traumas is, think about it. how many good things happen to you in your life? A lot,
A lot.
but you don't remember all the good things. But when it comes to a trauma that happened to you when you were 3 years old, you can remember. I mean, before I moved to where I live now, I had an incident where I came home from a friend's house, and this was, of course, in the 70s. So it was a little bit different. And I had to be, so I was 6 years old when I moved to the town I live in now. And it was at my old house. And I thought someone was in the house upstairs holding my sister's head
Mm.
by the hair. I was 5. Like, how do I still remember that? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a trauma. I had a traumatic incident for that memory, right? I remember, but I didn't know, like, I don't have a memory of the good stuff that was in that same day. I don't remember the fun I had at my friend's house that night. So when, and I'm saying that to get back to the concept of you saying that by the time it gets to a nightmare, it has been something where, and that's what you remember, because it's sometimes, unfortunately, our subconscious and our conscious remembers the trauma, and a nightmare is a traumatic dream, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I call those kinds of events, or when we dream of things in the past, I call them memory markers, because we do pull on the previous memories on it, and they do show up in dreams, and they're not always going to be nightmarish, but when the nightmares
Right.
show up, usually, and it's really interesting, Kyle, because and I hope it's okay if I kind of digress off into. I just have this short little story that I find fascinating
Sure.
because
No, no, this is our world. We can do whatever we want. You can say whatever you want to say.
so when it comes to nightmares, there was a tribe. This is many, many years ago. They were called the Sonoy tribe of Malaysia. And every
Okay.
morning they would get together as a tribe and they would share dreams in a dream circle. And the dreams informed the entire tribe. And so they lived by the information and the guidance that they were getting in their dreams. So as there are the young children there, they're, of course, they're young and they're having nightmares, as we all do when we're little. One of the things that the elders taught the children is to train yourself to become conscious enough in your nightmare to turn around and face the nightmarish figure and ask what it wants. And they were
Yeah.
able to
Why you
train
here?
the children to do that. And usually,
Interesting.
when they would turn around, and of course this takes practice, but they would turn around and this giant monster-ish, figure, what do you want? Well, I just want to be loved. I just want you to notice me. I just want you to care about me. And the really cool part is that the nightmarish figure then became an ally through the child's
Yeah.
life. So in the future, they didn't have the same nightmares with this figure. Now it becomes an ally
Interesting.
that's helping them. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways of working with nightmares. That, of course,
Right.
is one way. But generally, it's always trying to show us something that we need to work on,
Right.
you know?
That's very interesting, because when we first spoke, remember I told you that with my with my background, I've been able to wake up in the middle of the night, being rudely awakened by tones and somebody out there that needs my help, right? Boop, 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 boop. It's loud and obtrusive to wake you straight up out of bed. Not a good way, right? Not a good way to wake up. Instant fight, right? And not, and it's just that instant rush of adrenaline. And we'll go do a run. Sometimes if it gets canceled, I'll come back and I'll crawl into bed and I'll tell myself, I was like, if I knew that I was in a dream and I woke up and I was consciously aware that I was in a dream that I liked, I'll tell myself to go back into it. And I've been successful to get back into at least some form of what I think is that dream. It probably wasn't, but it was like I wake up after that and be like, oh, I got back into it. You know what I mean? And
Which is amazing.
it's one of those things. Yeah. So it's just not everybody can do it. I've talked to several people in the industry, in my industry, that they're like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. I can get back into some form of it. It's not an exact pause. It's not pausing Netflix and starting over, or starting from where I paused it, but it's got some similarities. I did
Right.
have a dream the other night, and I'll go ahead and tell it to you, and maybe you can track it. Well, I'm not tracking my dreams, but maybe I should start. So I had a dream that I was behind my lieutenant in the truck, and he was heading off the road into the trees, and he wasn't correcting, and he was saying, Kyle, I'm correcting, like, Jason, get back on the road, get back on the road. And he's like, I can't correct it. And then we started getting through the forest, getting to the trees, and things were breaking. And then and I don't remember the rest, but it
Mm.
was one of those things. I'm like, what is that telling me? Like, and I know that he's getting ready to go off on FMLA, to have his shoulder surgery. I'm like, so is this sort of some subconscious like worry that, because most of the time when he's going to be gone, or half the time I should say, when he's gone, my other partner and I, we share responsibility of being
Mm.
in charge. So we'll go back and forth. So I don't know if there's like some form of like, he's my leader and he was showing me the way and he's going off road, but he's not getting back off on the road, and I'm trying to get him right back on the road because I'm trying to be in charge. I don't know what it means.
Oh boy, yeah. So I mean, I could unpack quite a few things on that, but I probably, but they're good things. So yes, it might have
Yeah.
something to do with his surgery that's coming up and the way that's affecting you in your job, right? But it also may have something to do with, is there a part of Jason that you relate to us, that you associate with, that maybe feels like, hey, I'm really needing to kind of autocorrect something in my own life? Is there somewhere where I'm veering off my normal given road? And yes, it's going to be, there's a lot of trees, and there's the potential for different things to happen when I'm off the road than when I'm on the road. So I would be asking questions more about it from a reflection standpoint. And what is it perhaps that I am, where I'm needing that, or I'm going slightly, I'm taking a road less traveled, or, something like that. One of the keys is,
Not everybody in the world's doing podcasts, and I'm
mm,
embracing it, and I'm diving in deep. A year ago, I was like, "No, I never wanna be on camera. I never wanna do a podcast. I just wanna make them." And now I've got
and you're
2,
doing it.
and so, and it's new territory for me because I'm honestly thinking about doing it other than the EMS job. I'm not gonna, I'm diving in deep. I wanna do it. I wanna do it all the time. I wanna have as many guests on as possible. So that could be my road less traveled now,
Yeah.
And he is an entrepreneur, and he has
Mm,
gone outside of the norm before in his life, and because I know him pretty well, he's taken some chances in his career of doing stuff other, because the EMS world and the 911 system, the way that we belong to, we work 24 hours and then off 48. So we have a lot of, on those 48 hours, we don't have to go to work. We can just do whatever we want. We can start a landscape business. I can be a voiceover actor. I mean, I can do all kinds of stuff on my 2 days off, and it's every third day I work, and then I go back to doing whatever, a secondary job. So he did that. I do it. I'm a podcaster on my days off. I don't work. I work tomorrow. I don't work right now. So yeah, I mean, that I never even thought of that angle. So that's amazing. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And the other thing I would just, the little tip is, always pay attention to what the emotions were in the dream. You know, what
Okay.
was it
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like, oh, this
important.
is cool, this is kind of an adventure, or was it, oh no, we're in for big trouble, or
There was a little bit of fear.
okay.
Yeah, there was a little bit of there was no anger. There was excitement, like, "Hey, get back on the road, dude. What's going on? Like, is it the truck? Like, what's wrong?" It wasn't, and there was no anger. There was no fear until maybe near the end when we were off the road and going through the trees. But there wasn't, and there was still another part of it that I don't remember because I didn't write it down, unfortunately. There was another part of it that it did get worse, and I shook myself out of it, because I can shake myself out of a dream too.
Mm,
I can wake myself up. And that, I don't know if that's normal, if that's something that you, because I also dream very quickly. I'll fall
mhm,
asleep
mhm,
and I'll dream and I'll wake up, and it could be something that I don't want to dream about. So I'll shake myself out of it, wake up, consciously realize that I'm awake and in my real world. And then I'll look at the time, and it was like maybe a minute or two after I fell asleep,
mm,
if I know the general time frame that I would laid down. So I
right.
don't know if I know that's probably sleep deprivation, probably.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there's
Because
some of
your
that
body's
with those
going,
long
get into
hours.
REM. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, let's. That's my next question. Just for some education about dreams, speak a little bit on the fact of REM sleep. Can you dream outside of REM, or do you have to be in REM? Because in my understanding, if you're not in REM, you can't dream.
And I've read that too, Kyle. But I have to say, and I think I'm a little bit more similar to you, because I can fall asleep and instantly go into a dream, and I know I'm not in REM sleep. So I think that probably the studies are that mostly it's in REM sleep, but
Okay.
I think that people dream outside of it as well. That,
Well, I can
just based on my
daydream.
personal
I'm
experience.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
creative. I can
right.
daydream with the best of them. I can get lost in my walk.
Yeah, yeah.
So back to the business side of it. You do this as a business, right? Like, you're an entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur. Is that a word? Ooh, a female
A new
entrepreneur is an
one.
entrepreneur. Oh, I just made a word. Let's do it. Like I want that to be in the dictionary. No. But when it comes to when did you decide? I mean, what was your training prior to becoming a dream tracker? I mean, you said 40 years, and come on now, that means that it was right about when you were born that you were started being a dream tracker. Because there's no way I'm not going to ask you your age, but trust me when I tell you, so when did what did you do prior to becoming a dream tracker and realizing that you wanted to make it a business and move through life like that
Yeah.
and
Oh,
find clients?
it's a good question. So I actually come from the corporate world. I have been in corporate America for 35, 40 years. I'm out of it now, but that has been my history. But I was always such a big learner. So I have been studying it the whole time that I was working. So, my nights and my weekends and anything that any vacation time that I took, I would go to workshops and seminars and just read and study. So I did it alongside my corporate work, and I stopped the corporate work about a year and a half ago, and now I do this full time.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's just been a super cool journey, but I was doing it alongside first,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did it in conjunction, kind of like what I'm doing with my voiceover business and my podcasting business. When it comes to that, I do it in conjunction with being a full time paramedic because that's where I get my insurance and my retirement. And my family gets their insurance, so it's like
Exactly.
I was on a phone call a few minutes before the call, and one of my mentors that are inside of my podcasting mentor group, he was like. He asked me how much, not bluntly how much money I make at my other job, but I was telling him that I have to, like, every third day I can't have a podcast because every third day I'm on the medic serving the community. And he's like, well, how much do you have to make, in your own business so you could leave that? I'm like, hold on, I don't know if I want to leave it because insurance right now, and at least, and he's not from here, he's from Scotland. And with a real, and I don't do a great Scottish accent, but it's really strong. But I can understand him because I just look at him the whole time and I watch him, and I really, but which makes me hyper focus on what he's saying. But it's one of those things where I definitely know that that is my comfort zone. I'm okay with possibly getting out of my comfort zone, and I've gotten out of my comfort zone before. I went to the corporate world and I hated it. I learned about anxiety and chest pain there and corporate sabotage. I was in, and I didn't like that. And I was still serving my community because I worked in a medical supply company that developed medical supplies and brought it to the market, right? And so, like, I knew that I was still serving, so I was like, okay, this is good. And I had a lot of my resume that checked off the boxes, but the corporate world was not for me.
Hmm.
So I applaud you that you lasted 35, 40 years in it.
It's and it's interesting because part of what I also try to do now is help women who are in a similar scenario, and maybe they're out of it, but they didn't take a
Yeah.
lot of time just to feed their soul, which, you know,
Right.
to me is such a big
Right.
piece of the dream.
Now, so when it comes to your business, so your dream tracking is a business, but you're also almost from what you just said, you're also a like a mentor slash a business coach for someone that wants to step outside of their normal job and do something that they're passionate about. Is that am I interpreting that conscious thought the same
More
way?
more a life coach. So I've been certified in coaching
Okay, life
since
coach. Okay.
2009 also. But yeah,
Okay.
so I do it that way. And I
Okay.
combine the life coaching and the dream work together because I just found that
Okay.
each complements the other so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. That makes total sense now. Okay. Okay. I didn't know that there was also a previous job, a previous business you were running prior to becoming a dream tracker as a business. So that's great. So once again, everybody, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Ignition Path podcast. And Bambi is talking about some great stuff here. I know that Bambi has a book coming out that she mentioned to me, or it's already out, that she definitely wants to talk about when it comes to what she has to offer for anybody. If this resonates with you and you want to learn more, of course, you want to get a hold of Bambi. But tell us a little bit about your book and how that came about. And you mentioned that you were doing dream tracking for the last year and a half. Was this something that but that's full time? Was this something that you took a while to create and share with the audience all about your book and what that's about?
Yeah, so it's funny because I had always wanted to write a book. And I had a dream in 2002 where I woke up from the dream. I had the whole idea for exactly the kind of dream work that I was going to do. And then it took me almost 18 years or almost 20 years to
Oh,
actually
wow.
write it and do
To
it.
do it.
And that's because I was in, as my corporate work, and that was very demanding. So I just published it
Yep.
in 2021. And the whole book is just about well, it's basically, there are 4 principles that I use for dream tracking. And I walk people through all the 4 steps, but I do a lot of other pieces like, mindset and working with our core values and things where we do a lot of personal reflection and then see how it's showing up in the dreams, but also
In
just
the
really
dreams.
simple things on, okay, well, I'm dreaming about, a horse, or I'm dreaming about, my childhood home, or just some of the normal things that people will dream and of imagery. And I go into that and how to work with that. And a lot of it for me is questions and curiosity, but really helping people open up the dream to then start seeing what is actually going on. So I think, I know the whole idea of your show too is about the superpower, your guest superpower.
Yeah, let's talk about, yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
so I would say that my superpower is symbolic sight, meaning that I can hear
Okay.
people's dreams and I can translate them into symbolism, which is what dreams are anyways,
Okay.
right? That's part of what takes so long to learn, is
Right.
really trying to figure out what the symbolism of your own dream images mean. So I can help people with that because I have this ability to see things much more symbolically. So that's
Very cool. Like,
yeah.
yeah, that's really neat because that is a superpower. And when it comes to my superpower, when it comes to like building something, I can walk into a room and I can see it finished. Like straight
Mm,
up, I can see it finished. I see where things go. I know spacing, and it is people and they're like, "How do you figure this out? How do you know what to do?" I'm like, "Cuz I see it in its finished
mm.
format." So it's kind of along the same lines of that. When it comes to the book though, what's the name of it? We'll put the link of course in the
Okay.
description. We want to make sure that people can access that if they can. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, so the name of the book is Dream Tracking: Track Your Dreams and Transform Your Life. And it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, iTunes, Kindle, but Amazon's the easiest.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Did you, have
Yeah,
you recorded as the voiceover actor in me, have you
I have
recorded
not
it
yet.
in, audio yet? Okay, well, we'll have to
Not
work
yet.
together on that. I want you to be the no, I love listening to it. It's like when I listen to Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, have you read that yet?
Mm, I have that book. Yeah.
Like, amazing book, amazing book. I mean,
Amazing.
shameless plug for Matthew. I won't put that link in there because everybody can find it, but it's a really good book, and I liked it so much because I'm a book listener, not a book reader, by the way, and I
Hmm.
love that Matthew McConaughey and his cool voice was reading his book to me. That was so amazing. So I always try to tell people if they've got a book and it wants to go to audio, do your best to record it yourself and then find a producer or an audio guy that can edit it.
Right, make it nice. Yeah, which is a great idea. And I have to plug something else really cool about Matthew. And because you've read the book, you'll probably remember this, Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But while he talks about the fact that he's been journaling for, I think it's 30 years now.
Oh, yeah.
His whole
Yeah.
life he's been journaling.
Yeah.
But he
What commitment.
actually, well, major commitment. And you just don't always expect to hear people who've done something like that for so long.
Yeah.
But he talks about his dreams, and he literally had a dream, and he talks about it in the book. And the dream called him to Africa, and he actually
Yep.
followed the
Yeah.
dream
Yeah, I
and
remember
went
that.
there and had a
Yep.
huge
Yep.
experience
And
over there, which
a huge life-changing experience. The stories,
huge.
the wrestler, that big
Hmm.
dude in the African, community that he ended up wrestling, and they're like
Yeah,
they have, built their bond, and he got his butt whooped. I mean, it's an incredible book. It really is. I mean, this isn't about Matthew's book, this podcast, it's about your book. But yeah, I mean, it is a
but
very,
still,
very, yeah, it's anybody who's an entrepreneur should read Matthew's book. That's how I
I
can plug that
totally
one.
agree.
So, and yeah,
I
agree.
totally agree.
So,
And I just only brought
yeah.
it up because I think the power of dreams. He's
Yes.
somebody who also talks about how important it is
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
listen.
Yep. Well, once again, everybody, thanks a lot for being and tuning in to the Ignition Path, podcast where we fuel. I'm trying to remember my tagline since this is going to be the first episode. You're going to be officially the first episode, by the way.
Woo! How
Because I'm going to produce
fun.
it as soon as
Love
I'm
it.
going to produce it when we're done, and it's going to go live in about 20 minutes. So when we're done, but
Wow,
yeah.
exciting.
So yeah, exactly. So what I say my or my tagline is fueling the entrepreneurial fire. There it is. So the
And
Ignition
so
Path
for me, it'll
podcast.
be fueling the entrepreneurette fire.
Yeah, there it is.
What's the word you came
The
up with?
no, it's entreprenet. Entreprenet.
Entre-
Yeah. Yeah. Fueling the entreprenet fire is what we're doing on the Ignition Path tonight with Bambi here. So anything
I
else you
love
want to
it.
talk about, Bambi? I mean, I can make this podcast as short or as long as I want because it's my podcast, and I want to make sure that you are the star of my podcast. So
Oh, thank
if there's
you.
anything else you want to talk about or you want to share with the community
Mm.
and the listeners, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. I guess maybe I'll just give, actually, you know what I could do? What if I give the listeners a couple of tips just for dream recall and dream journaling?
Sure. Oh,
Because
perfect. That's a
that's
great
something
idea.
they
That's
could
a great
use
idea.
right
Right
off the
now.
top. And if they get really curious, they can go to sleep tonight and just practice,
Perfect.
right? So
Perfect.
for dream recall, I'll do like 2 or 3 tips. So one of the first things is that if you have to have an interest in wanting to remember your dreams. So part of it is just intention setting.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're falling asleep at night, keep an open journal right next to your bed with a little pen and a flashlight, or try not to wake anybody else up, but have it ready because that shows intention to your subconscious. And then repeat to yourself at night as you're falling asleep, I will remember my dreams. I will remember my dreams.
Okay.
That's like step 101. Having the journal is really crucial. I always encourage people to put a couple notes about their day at the top of the page that would be for the dream for that night, because when we go back and we're tracking over time, you want to know what was happening at the time that you had
Mm-hmm.
that dream, because maybe in 2 more
Mm.
months Kyle has another dream where he's driving and he veers off the road, and this time he goes off to the right hand side, and you can see, oh gosh, well, there was something similar, yes, because I had just started this podcast and I had just done this. You can start tracking things just by a couple of
Ah,
day notes. Really simple stuff.
makes
But if
sense.
like
Yeah.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, but if I write something down, right, I'll remember then.
I don't
So,
know if I've had breakfast yet today, and it's 6 o'clock at night in the East Coast. So.
running late, right? Another thing is just to get really interested in dreams. So read a book, find documentaries, look it
Okay.
up on the internet, just start reading about dreams and the benefits of dreaming, because that kind of sparks our imagination and that creative side that really does start getting interested in dreams. Um, and and then when it comes to the journaling part of the dreams, there's really only 2 major tips. And this one is like the big tip that changes everything, Kyle. So the first thing is just, write down anything that you remember and write it in as much detail as you can. Be sure to add emotions. And if there's people's names, if there's messages or there's numbers or there's anything that feels important, I do this thing where I will bullet point the different sections of the dream before I write down the dream, because I have found that sometimes when I'm writing the dream, by the time I get to the end, I forgot the end. But if I make
Forgot.
a few bullet points, then I can follow them and I can write down the dream then, and I don't forget all the detail. But the second tip is write the dream in the present tense, because we have a tendency when we wake up of writing dreams as if they were past tense, right? Because I had the dream, now I'm awake. But it really isn't. I mean, the dreams are still happening now. So for an example, if I say, well, let's just use another car analogy. Let's say that I past tense, right? I was driving at night and it was really dark and I couldn't see, and the windshield was covered over, my eyes were, glued shut. Versus I bring it into present tense, it's dark and I cannot see, and I cannot see where I'm going. And you can feel how it changes it from if I have it then to I bring it into the here and the now, because now I can say, well, gosh, where is there someplace in my life, just from that piece alone, just from a present tense piece, where's a place that I feel like I can't see where I'm going? And I can easily identify that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So little pieces, but sometimes just writing the dream in the present tense is enough to give you a good sense of what the dream is kind of speaking to, even if you don't fully understand everything, but you'll have an idea of, oh, okay, you know what? I think this is commenting on this part of my life over here. and let me now dig a little deeper and do a little treasure hunting and see what else I can find.
All right. That was 4 nuggets. I call them nuggets. I talk about nuggets on my Elevate podcast as well. And I'm like, nuggets that we're going to take. So you gave 4 nuggets for people to put into action tonight. And I cannot wait to go to sleep and dream tonight, because with that newfound thought process of going to bed with an intention of remembering my dreams, and then journaling it in the morning. And I'm going to do my best, because I'm a very, very busy person, and I tend to procrastinate even on my waking up. So I'm always in a rush in the morning. I'm not good at giving myself time to get things started. So, because I work tomorrow at 6 a.m. So I'll be up at 5, feed the dogs, jump in the car and get going, pack my lunch, go. So I've only, I'm lucky I only live 12 miles away from my work. But so sometimes I don't have that wake up and just, oh, it's my life. It's, oh, I have time to write and journal. No, I don't. If I woke up at 4:30, but I don't like doing that, right? I want to push. I'm a constant procrastinator. So,
Hey, and you know what, Kyle? Just one, I have to toss this in just because there are so many people who are in the same exact boat who are that busy. And when I'm really busy and I don't have time to write down the whole dream, I'll just open up my phone and
okay,
I will
that's a
talk
good question.
the text into an email, and then I'll send it to
Okay.
myself. And then that way
Oh,
I
okay.
keep track of it, right? Because you
So
don't
I
want to
guess
lose a
it's,
really good dream.
of course, and
You know?
that's actually a really good idea, and just talk it into your phone, into the voice memo even.
Mhm.
When it comes to, we know that when you write down your goals as an entrepreneur, they say write it down. There's something with the subconscious and writing it physically down that helps sink it in. Same thing with journaling, you write it down. Is it the same? Would you think that it's the same concept when you're writing down your dreams, or is that just a matter, like, could it be to make it easier for people? Maybe Bambi creates an app that you open up every morning while you're going to the bathroom, and you talk into the phone about your dreams while you're doing one of the things you have to do. I just gave you an idea. Make $1 million
$1 million.
on your dream app.
Well, okay. So 2 things, I guess. The first one is people have to do what's going to work for them. So if it
Okay.
was a matter of I have to record it because I absolutely can't write it, or I have a broken hand, or I don't like writing, or it's whatever, they do what you can do to get the dream down. That being said, I still always encourage people to handwrite a dream first, because
Okay. Okay.
yes, it is very much like journaling. It activates the brain in a whole different way.
Okay.
And it's like it somehow the writing of dreams, Kyle, also helps you remember more of the dream. I don't know why that is, but if you start writing
Interesting.
down the dream in the morning, all of a sudden different pieces start popping up as you're journaling.
Yeah.
So, and different
Huh.
ideas and different thoughts. And, you're an creative person, imaginative, creative person. So you get
I
that,
love
right? The whole idea of like the waking dream stuff. So,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it totally opens that up.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bambi, for coming on the inaugural Ignition Path podcast. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing
Thank
your
you.
background, sharing your business with us, how you got to that part, being in the corporate world and doing this on the side, and now doing it full time at, 40 years, you're probably retired from the corporate world. So, one of those things, and you probably don't ever want to go back, right? So I
Mm-mm.
appreciate you coming on, sharing your superpower with all of us that are tuned into Ignition Path.
Thank
And
you.
remember, don't hesitate to reach out if anything that you're listening to today strikes a chord with you and you want to know more about it. Reach out to Bambi. All of her information, of course, will always be in the show notes and the description and the YouTube stuff. You'll be able to find her and get a hold of her right away. Her Facebook, whatever she wants to provide to me to get a hold of her, will all be in there, just clickable and whatnot. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Bambi, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you,
Ignition Path
Carl.
podcast. And we'll see you soon, and we'll have you on again when I start having these weird dreams. Weird or not, I'm going to have you come on and unpack them
Great.
for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I would love to. Thank you for having me, Kyle. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Ignition Path, fueling the entrepreneurial fire.